Yeah, are we just kick off?
Shall we kick off?
Shall we just kick off?
Yes. Let's just get into it.
Yeah, so welcome back everyone, or welcome if you're a new listener. You're here with Caroline
And Amelia.
and we have a special guest this week, and our special guest is Steve Connolly, who will be introducing in full in a bit. But hi, Steve.
Afternoon.
Yeah, I believe it's
Good
afternoon.
Yeah.
Are we on actor time? That's morning in actor time, isn't it? But yeah, it's wonderful to be back with the Manchester Indie Theatre podcast, or MIT Pod. First things first, are we going through the what's on? The what's going on
Yes,
on
what's
the
on in Manchester?
So, coming to Contact Theatre, I've been so excited to say this since I found out of it. I've been so excited to introduce this one. At Contact Theatre, from the 3rd to the 6th of June, we have Fuck Machine with Ricochet Theatre. I'm just going to go for the name, to be honest, but, you know, it looks like a fantastic piece. There's some real big hitters in terms of the cast and team involved. So
Yes,
that's really cool.
we've been talking a lot about the Angry Brigade recently.
We have a
and
lot.
I think Frankie Lippman is in this piece as well.
Yeah, so if you're a fan of the Angry Brigade and Frankie, get along to Fuck Machine. I'm going to say it as many times as I can. And what else do we have?
Well, we also have, this was a short play on and off cut a couple of years ago, actually, at 53.2. I believe it started off in the Short Play Festival a couple of years ago, and it's called Silent Struggles. It was written by Kerry Parkins, and this will be on the 14th of June.
Absolutely.
At 53.2.
53.2, brilliant. And also, we've got one of our first listener messages. We've got a listener email, and it's from Mike Beard, who works with Amicable Photography. He is a theatre photographer, and he's actually planning to capture performers at the Greater Manchester Fringe this year. So if you have a show on, look him up, amicablephotography.co.uk. So that's AMICABLE photography.co.uk. So that's a really, really great resource. But also, Mike's email actually was talking about networking. And he says, you know, you talk about how vibrant the Manchester independent theatre scene is, and I completely agree, there's so much happening. But I've noticed something that feels like a gap. There does not seem to be any dedicated networking events for theatre people in the area. And I had a bit of a brain scratch, and I was like, I don't think there are. I think I completely agree there with Mike. And I wonder if any of our listeners might have the capacity and the interest to get involved and take that on, because it's a real gap in the market, I think.
Yeah, I think so, because I have been to networking events with other filmmakers in Manchester, and I think I've seen quite a few for that, because they do that at Marble Academy. They have it at home above the top floor at home.
Yeah.
And I have been to a networking event at 53.2 before as well. I do think that, again, I think it's filmmakers as well. So yeah, but I'd always be up for going to these events, because that is how, we talk a lot about networking in general, in terms of like all the friends that we know from just going to this one event, getting involved in this one project.
But these are all like workshops and shows and things like that, and there are one-off networking events, but a regular one, I don't think that's something that we have at the moment.
So Hannah Ellis used to do the Manchester ADP, which is a script in hand at the King's Arms. I think that was always good for networking, because there'd be different actors there each month, with different directors and writers there each month, and also people would stay behind afterwards and chat. Yeah, but once that finished, I think she tried to bring it back just after COVID, and it's sort of like then it disappeared again.
I do remember
because
this.
Hannah's a very busy woman.
I think Hannah's suffering from talented person syndrome, where everyone wants her. So.
Yeah. So yeah, like you say, other than actually going to 53.2 and just and meeting people there when something is on, he's exactly right. There isn't. I can't think of any networking for theatre, no.
No, and well, the voice you just heard was the voice of Steve Connolly.
Steve Connolly is with us today.
New guest.
We're joined by an actor, writer, producer and director.
I think all those words are doing quite a lot of heavy lifting.
I think maybe, they could go under the umbrella polymath.
I was going to say, I was listening to both Bronte's and Natalie's podcast. I was listening to Natalie's on the way in, and I've got to say that you guys have to do a lot more work this week than you had to the past couple of weeks, because I'm just going to sit here and go, yeah.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I honestly, like, even coming in, I could think of like 5 different things that I was like, I've seen Steve's name attached to this, I've seen Steve's name attached to that. Of course, we've worked together. It's We've
known each other a few years now. We've been involved in various things, from short play festivals to me coming to see, I think, shows you've done at the King's Arms so I think we've got a lot that we can talk about, because you were also, as we've had with all of our guests so far, everyone who's come on, they do so much. You set up your own production company. You've been a podcaster yourself. So we're very excited to get into it. I will take the honours of introducing Steve Connolly. Steve Connolly is a Mancunian actor, writer, producer and director. He was the host of the Two Lines in Doctors podcast between 2018 and 2020. He then set up Act Your Age in early 2020 when he became aware of the lack of opportunities for emerging and returning actors over the age of 40. During the pandemic, he also created Lost in Salford Productions for the web series Council Culture, based on calls he has received while working for a local borough council, as well as the weekly web series Exciting Times, which came to an end on New Year's Day. Lost in Salford's first short film, 4 feet 11 inches, is due for release this year, and Act Your Age's first A Table and Two Chairs event is also due in the autumn.
I think that you saying that us having to do a lot of work to get stuff out of you is a complete...
We've got so much to unpack there.
I must have had a lot of time on my hands. I really must.
It is great, though, because we've got so much that we'd like to unpack from this.
So much. I mean, like, first of all, the Two Lines in Doctors podcast, if we're going for podcast discussions, like, how did that come about?
It was back in 2018, and the title comes from I worked for a company who only employed creatives. It was an awful place to work. I think everyone can agree. You sold magazines, and we were all creators, and we were sat in a meeting room one day, and somebody said, "What can you see yourself doing in the next 6 months?" And people, obviously, Coronation Street was over the road, the Lowry was over the road. Everyone had these big ideas, and I said, "Right now, I'll take Two Lines in Doctors." And so that's where the name came from. But I would say it was a collaboration with a director and actor in Huddersfield called Prue Griffiths. We got together and had just a general idea about talking to people who were emerging and returning to the acting profession. And so obviously the first 2 episodes we had Paul Abbott, who created Shameless, and John O'Farrell. So obviously nobody who actually fit into that demographic. Until eventually we started talking to people who were theatre companies and actors who were coming into the profession. Then Prue left the series, and I carried on by myself, and again you put out a feeler. If anyone wants to come on, I'll have a chat with you about your career and anything like that. I was trying to get to talk to people who had been in Doctors, R.I.P.
I know.
Yeah, so I was gutted. I was so gutted.
It's never happening now, the Two Lines in Doctors, is it?
It's not. It's not. I was actually in the Lowry. I was actually watching a play in the Lowry when the news came. It had been cancelled. And I had 6 WhatsApp messages from different people saying, "What are you going to do now?"
This is a touchy subject.
It is, yeah.
We were talking the heartstrings.
I know, we've gone straight into it.
So I've had 2 actors who had been in Doctors. So Lucy Richardson, who is now actually my agent, she was in an agent at Attias Management. She'd been in, and Caroline O'Hara, who's actually better known as the secretary in the Warburton's adverts. The one who goes, Mr. Warburton, Robert De Niro's waiting. So she'd been in 2 episodes of Doctors. So just talking about what being in Doctors was like, and the continuing dramas, and how much different Doctors was, because they were all self-contained stories rather than continuing like Corrie and Emmerdale and EastEnders. So then we got to 2020. Got the last episode went out in February 2020. Then I took a step back. My mother passed away shortly before COVID, and then COVID happened. And then when I came back to thinking about restarting Two Lines in Doctors, everybody had a podcast. It's like, what were you going to, everybody. I mean, I knew people who had 3 podcasts on the go at the same time.
Couldn't do that.
Definitely not.
So I came back again in 2022, did a couple of episodes with returning guests, but it's like the fire and the passion had sort of gone from it.
You couldn't reignite
you
that
couldn't really, because it seemed like everybody was doing a podcast, the same kind of thing. So I quietly shelved it, and I had other things to do that came up over the pandemic anyway. So
there was a lot I think, the pandemic was a time where a lot of creative projects were born.
Yeah.
A lot of reinvention, wasn't there? And exploration, soul searching.
Yeah, a lot of that. So I think, definitely post-pandemic and 2021, 2022, we did start to see a lot of the projects I think that people had been working on in quarantine and just seeing kind of that shift as well, I think, though, pre-pandemic to post-pandemic and what that did to, the arts as well as a lot of industries.
I feel like the arts in Manchester has just skyrocketed just in the last sort of, it kind of got off to a slow start because everyone was maybe a little bit tentative, but then suddenly it's just gone, woof, there's so much going on.
Yeah, you mentioned the ADP before as well, which actually I think I did an ADP at Hope Mill Theatre in 2022. I think that might have been like the first one that I did, and then I did one later in the year. But again, that was it was a great opportunity to meet other actors, writers. It created like a little community again, I think, of people who wanted to just come together and support other people's work. And it was an opportunity as well for the writers to hear their work performed, because it was script in hand. But anything like that, new writing nights, they're always, I love them. We've spoken about them before. It's just a great opportunity for people. And I guess that, like you said, that is a form of networking. People get to do what they love to do, but also meet other people. And I think it does create a sense of community. And a lot of the same people come back and do other projects together, or off the back of that end up working on something completely new. Yeah,
well, I tend to find with some actors, because you would not believe it to hear me, but I am painfully shy. I cannot go up to new people and go, "Hi, my name is Steve. Would you mind casting me in your thing?" So it is sort of like networking things and informal networking things. I wouldn't necessarily think about going to networking, because that is sometimes a swear word for some people. Getting through the door, that kind of stuff. It's like
it sounds scary, because it feels like there's a pressure on it. And I think I've heard people say, "Oh, I'm worried to go up and speak to them because I don't want them to think I'm being, pushy, or I'm trying to sell them." What I mean?
And there's a falsehood to it, isn't there? It's like you're being put in a situation, and it's like, now talk. It's not organic, is it?
It doesn't feel it. And I think if you get in your head about that and you start kind of overthinking what you're saying and worrying about what the other person is thinking, then it kind of takes the fun out of it.
Yeah.
Whereas if we see it as something like an opportunity just to meet other like-minded creatives and just make friendships from this, I think that just seeing it that way for ourselves makes it easier. And then we just also happen to talk about the cool stuff that we're doing.
Yeah. And but also, like, there's networking events tend to be flooded by a lot of the same types of people, because there's a lot of people coming out of drama schools, coming out of like training. There's such a saturation of like 20-something people, like 20-something age. So I think that the Act Your Age production company that you've launched, Steve, it's what's needed, because a lot of work is made for and by, people under 40. And that kind of leaves this massive like casting gap really, and gap in the work that's there for people over 40.
What I noticed, especially after COVID, was that quite a lot of the competitions for emerging artists. I know this has kind of like gone away now, but to be an emerging artist, you had to be under 30. Where I came into the industry in 2016, so I've only been in it 10 years. I was past 40 when I came in. Why wasn't I emerging?
Exactly. That people come in as all sorts of different stages of life and bring so much life experience. Like you've mentioned, in one of your projects that you'd kind of was inspired by a previous job with your web series. I believe, like you worked in a call centre.
Yeah, I still do work in a call call centre. Yeah.
So you bring a lot of that into your creative work.
Yes, well, exactly, because it's sort of like I've learned that obviously if no one's going to employ you, employ yourself. From Ross Grant and Act on This. If you're creative, if you're an actor, you can create. You can't wait for it to come to you.
Oh yeah.
You can bang off a monologue, stick it on YouTube. You can write a short play, stick it into Offcut. It's not. You're not defined just by being an actor. You are a lot.
An artist.
You're an artist. You're a lot bigger than that.
I think a lot of people as well, I've known people to say, oh, I'm not a writer, I'm not. But I'm like, you are though, because they come out with such brilliant improvisation and they don't even realise I was like, that's genius, that's brilliant. Yeah. You are a writer, you're creating right now, but I think maybe it's the confidence that comes with that, attaching yourself to sitting down, writing a play, putting it out there, and then you're saying you're a writer. Maybe that is the bit that people... But I do honestly always support people creating their own work and giving it a go. And it is a scary thing because writing can be very personal, as I think any writer knows.
Absolutely.
And it can be because you feel that you're being judged on another level, than especially if you're an actor and a writer, you're performing your own piece. But I agree with you. I think it's a great being able to have that confidence to create stuff yourself as well and not kind of just sit and kind of think, I'm not sure what I can do because I'm not having... I really support that.
But it seems like Act Your Age is very much kind of expanding out from there and just being like, not only am I writing stuff for myself, but I'm also creating opportunities or seeking out opportunities for people who are in the same boat as me, who are looking for work that is sadly lacking for people over a certain age.
Yes, so it came from that initially. And so the first thing we did was we started in January 2020, and then obviously something else happened in the world, and we just got stuck. We had this idea about doing these short plays, and again, Hannah Ellis, who at the time was the theatre manager at Hope Mill, said this is something that Hope Mill would be interested in putting on because people of a certain age, and as you get older, become more and more invisible.
Yeah.
So this is something that Joe and Will would be interested in putting on. We were in constant contact with Hannah up to the point where we actually ended up putting on, I think, in September 2021. I think it was. Or it could have been 22. Where have the years gone?
It's post-COVID.
Yes,
what was that?
Yeah, we did 9 short plays, which was 9 new pieces of writing. We put it on the BBC Writers' Room. Oh my word! I think we got about 360 submissions.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
oh, gosh, that's work to go through all that.
There was 5 of us producing it at the time. In the end, it ended up being me, Kitty Ball, and Helen Perry.
All the big hitters.
Wow, what a dream team!
I know, and Kitty and Helen, who did not come on as producers, ended up having to help me produce it.
So how did that go down? What came out of that?
So we saw like 350 applications or 15-minute plays. Yeah. And so because I wasn't used to reading plays. So we split them into 5. We didn't all read 350 plays, and then we decided which ones were our favourites, and then we kind of whittled it down in the end.
Yeah.
We had quite a lot of plays about dementia, quite a lot of plays about care homes, quite a lot of plays about death. That wasn't what we were aiming for. And then along the way, 2 of the producers had to drop out for personal reasons, which left just me, Kitty, and Helen. And I say Kitty and Helen didn't sign up to be producers, but in the end, that's what they eventually had to be for us to actually put it on. We had 40 actors, some from, because nobody had worked in that 18-month period, really.
Yeah.
So we had actors from Yorkshire, we had actors from London, Cumbria, so Newcastle, from everywhere came to do this, what eventually became called a showcase, really. But it was 9 short plays.
It does sound an absolute, I can imagine doing that myself and putting something out there and just not anticipating the avalanche of stuff to come your way.
Yeah.
We were talking before as well about sort of the demographics involved in the Act Your Age. I think you mentioned that a huge proportion of them were women.
Yeah. So after the showcase, it was just me by myself producing. So luckily, I have a very supportive wife who joined me in the producing of it all. She's
amazing.
Wife Helen is an amazing writer. If anybody has seen her stuff, they'll know. So the writing, we did these monthly monologues. Started off with these monthly monologues. So with the last day of every month, we'd invite a writer to write something in. We'd invite an actor to act it. They were like 10, 11 minutes long, and people would do it in one shot, in one take. How long it took them to learn it, I have no idea, but they'd all do it in one take. What we discovered was the writing that we were getting in was mostly 50% men, 50% women. But the actors that we had was sort of like 80% women, because somebody told me when we were setting it up that male actors fall off the cliff a lot slower than female actors do once you get past the age of 40. Because and they do talk about these amazing actresses like Sarah Lancashire and Joanna Scanlon and like the Riot Women. But these are all really actors who have been established before they were 40.
Yes.
It isn't easy for female actors over the age of 40, if you are emerging, to get a toehold in the industry. And like I said, bad enough for me. I've been grafting for 10 years. I've just got my first TV role. So, not,
Congratulations.
NDA, you can't talk about
NDA.
But yeah, and if it's that hard for me, how difficult is it for people of my age who are female coming into the industry? Because I know amazing female actors in Manchester who just can't get seen for anything.
No,
because it's saturated.
Yeah.
And what's happened with Spotlight, in fact, you need one credit. It's saturated it even more. That's their terms, and that's fine. You've got a Spotlight link, that's great. But yeah, it's become harder and harder even in the last 5 years to do it. And so the monologues that we did, we thought would be a great way of advertising, in a sense, female actors over the age of male actors as well. Because you don't create work not to do it yourself. So I did one. So, and then like we did different sort of topics. We did like, I think the anniversary of the first year the Beatles came out. We did that. Mm-hmm. We did the World Cup in 2022. We've done Halloween, we've done Christmas. Helen wrote a missing persons mystery where we had 32 different actors all playing little parts.
Wow, that must have been an undertaking.
Yeah, well, trying to 32. Give or take. Yeah, trying to email them going, where is your tape? We need your tape. Please send us your tape. And some of them really came up with really great ideas. So like, there's an actor called Karen Allen who was in one of our plays. She lives over in Yorkshire. The disappeared woman hired a car. So she went and filmed herself outside an Enterprise car hire building when it was closed. Just, some people just do it in their own homes, but some people went above and beyond.
Yeah.
And again, remember her saying once that she could only play herself. But she was so creative in that, in doing that, that it just proves that you're not just an actor. You are a creative.
Yeah, well, I think that a lot of people who say they only play themselves, I think that's a bit of I don't say a fallacy, but like, the closer you can get to feeling like you're in the role, the more of an effective actor you are. Just because you sound like yourself and look very much like yourself all the time, you can't really help that. I think a lot of people who play roles that they identify with tend to do it really, really well.
Well, you are bringing yourself to a role, in any capacity. Like, you might be living under imaginary circumstances, for whatever character you're playing, but you are still bringing yourself, your emotions, your inner kind of world to that character. So, yeah, I think that there is an inevitable... Individuals are unique. They have their own quirks. They have their own personalities, their own everything they have to offer. And that is what makes, I think we mentioned it before in any sort of audition process. Although it can feel disheartening if you don't get a part, you can't be disheartened by what you brought because you can only bring yourself. And I think with any role, you are bringing yourself. And so you inevitably have to.
Yeah, because I was thinking about the questions that might come up, and I was thinking about the amount of times that I've played a gay man. I think I did 3 at the ADP.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and since then I've done 2-3 more. I think I did my night with Reg, which is on at the Lowry, and just before COVID. So I'm not a gay man, but if you do your research, you talk to people, if you make it truthful and honest,
you kind of find the point where you and the character meet, don't you? Where you and the character overlap, and you might not have the same sexual preferences, but you might have, your physique, your voice, your priorities, your morals, things like that. There's certain things that you can just find in common. That's how you connect.
Yeah, you are bringing yourself in that role, like whatever you're experiencing in that moment, what you're feeling, everything else that is attached to your character. Yeah. Yes, you're bringing that in, but you are still bringing that, like you said, that honesty, that truth in that moment, that feeling like you are connected with that other actor, and kind of what's born out of that is what's magic, and what's in the moment, and that's what makes acting so incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. But I would like to move on and talk about just a couple of your other projects, Steve, that you've done, which you came to acting fairly later on in your career. Prior to that, and as you say, on an ongoing basis, you work for the council. You work in a call centre. That obviously inspired council culture. When did you sort of launch that? When did that sort of kick off?
So obviously started working from home. And some of the calls you would get were ridiculous. I mean, some people trying to take advantage of the situation. I mean, some of the calls were heartbreaking. You know, people ringing up and wanting to like organise a deathbed marriage and stuff like that. And not being able to organise funerals, people's wedding plans and all that kind of stuff. But some of the calls were absolutely ridiculous. We had one where a guy, he parked a double yellow line because he thought during COVID you could. He got a ticket, couldn't understand it, rang up, said, why, and eventually it turned out that his 15-year-old brother had told him it was okay to do it.
Oh,
so there was, there was that. There was somebody who had what she called a truck parked in front of her house. It turned out to be like a VW camper van. She said she lived in quite a respectable area of the borough. She said, none of my neighbours would have a camper van like this. I insist you come and move it.
Oh my God.
Turned out it was her neighbour from 2 doors down. They had a permit to park. They'd had it for 6 years. So her whole world view was out of the window.
Yeah.
Not left, not right, just out of the window. And they would all, and eventually because they didn't get what, they'd start screaming and shouting.
God.
I mean, there were variations of, oh, you're no fucking use, which kind of ended up being the tagline for they'd all put the phone down going, oh, you're no fucking use. And I'd say, well, I'm here to help.
Those templates, those kind of repeated experiences that bring it back to the same thing over and over.
And it became, so I started putting them on Facebook, typing them out, and people said you should turn this into either a book or do film. So I was initially going to have me filming me on the phone, and then whoever I cast on the other end of the phone filming themselves on their phone. Because obviously we got to the point where we all knew suddenly how to film ourselves.
Yes.
And then a filmmaker in Liverpool messaged me and said, I can do it. I'll do it for free because I've got nothing else on. I'll do it for free. And we got to the point where I actually cast people in it, and then he ghosted me.
Oh no.
So then one of the actors, Rebecca Evans, who was in one of these shorts, her friend Natalie Kennedy is a film director. She's done feature films, and so she actually, because she again had nothing to do, she came and filmed everything. We got sound design in. We went to everybody's houses to film it. Had to go to Sheffield to film one. We filmed Christmas in July, and it was and then it came. Then I just released it on YouTube, and I learned how to edit by doing it, because Natalie was going to edit it, and then all of a sudden the world opened again.
Yeah, we all
so
have stuff to do.
So I ended up having to edit it, and I learned a lot from the writing process doing that, from the directing, just watching her, because most people were static. They were all sat on the chairs, and also the editing process and sound design and all that kind of stuff. So I learned a lot from doing council culture, and they were sort of like the stories were true but not true because data protection and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So they were kind of like
the names were replaced
to protect
real.
The names were replaced to protect the innocent.
That's kind of purely coincidental. Any
likeness is purely coincidental.
Yeah, and like two or three of them were amalgamations as well. So of different phone calls. So
but of course it feels like you've got a bit of stylistic thread there, because I think Exciting Times being a web series, being quite sort of concentrated in a house mostly, very, very short, which is really great. It's kind of, I love the snapshots, but also I feel like there's that joy in the mundane, and then gradually it becomes less and less mundane. I really loved that, but it feels kind of like there's stylistic similarities in a strange way, maybe.
Yeah. And you mentioned you learned a lot from council culture and like the editing and the kind of directional choices and everything that came from that. Did you feel that you took that into kind of your next project?
Yeah, I mean, I did. I mean, I was lucky to have, for the beginnings, an exceptional team partner like Becky Kershaw.
Yeah.
And also the co-writer. And it was mostly static. But again, the writing, we sat down and we'd agree a through line for all the plot lines, especially the drug dealing that was involved. But again, the mundanity of it all. The first episode, they were just sat there reading the paper.
Yeah,
they didn't say anything. They just sat there reading the paper. And immediately, two of my friends from Urmston, where I come from, text me and says, "What the fuck is this?" They're just sitting there reading the paper. And
but it intrigues you then.
Yeah, no, yeah. First of all, what they're reading, and then sort of like, why they just sat there reading it? Because they were just like they were supposed to be a boring couple in their late 40s, early 50s, who, kids are mostly left. They got nothing else to do. They live in a middle class area. So we did that. Then he played cards, they made a cup of tea, watched the telly. And then the 4th episode, someone comes around with a kilo of cocaine.
But also you had, the casting, it was such a stacked cast for that series. Every time you announced one, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so good.
I know, it's sort of like, again, but it's people that have met over the past 10 years. So Leah Edelstein, who was the only underage person in the At Your Age showcase at Hope Mill. She came in as our daughter, who just passed her O-levels, and I think Leah's like 42. So she did that.
She's actually 100 years old.
That's right.
Fact check. At the time of recording, actor Leah Edelstein is 26 years old.
So she played that really well. We had Ross Thompson, who's done his own short film. The Robinson Family Barbecue. He came in as our eldest son. We found a lad called Dallas Redican, who's Scouse. We didn't know he was Scouse when we cast him, so we had to write that into it. We had Stephen Goodwaney, who played
Love Steve.
Who played somebody who bought drugs off us. Julie Root, who was the madam next door. So many people.
It's an absolute a smorgasbord of fantastic talent.
Yeah.
But people like that will only work with you if they know that they're going to get something fantastic, a fantastic experience, and obviously they did.
And that community here, I think, they're very much, as we always say, people want to be working with each other and supporting each other's work and getting involved. And I think we all have worked with each other at one point or another. We've worked with that person's friend, and that's led to, you know what I mean? Everybody is always like, when I see a project that you're doing, Steve, or anyone that I know, I'm like, oh my God, I know everybody there. I can't wait to go and see what all these wonderful people that I know are doing. Yeah. And it is great. And I do think, just like you say, being proactive to sort of make that happen, to bring a production like that together, whether it's a web series or a theatre show, you have to sort of manage a lot of people as well as kind of the creative choices that have gone into it.
Yeah, the managing the people was hard, because first of all, the house that we used was a couple of my oldest friends I've known for like 30 odd years. So getting in there and using their house when they weren't there as well. So I had to work that around the access availability. And the good thing about the early part of it, episodes when it was just me and Becky, were improvised. We go, what can we do? We'll do this. How's it going to work? Who cares? But so obviously, because that would work if an actor suddenly couldn't turn up, or they got delayed in traffic or something like that, because we had a 6-hour window every month or so to do it.
Yeah.
So Becky left the project because she wanted to focus on other things. So then it became totally scripted after that. So it kind of lost a little bit, I think, because there wasn't that spontaneity regarding it. And then I ended up trying to shoehorn different people in, because it couldn't just be me by myself. It had to be somebody else. And we explained the wife disappearing because she fell off a boat in the Amazon. And, that's right. No, because they're on a drug run.
Yeah, of course.
Let me give you all the context and the DL.
That's right. So then I had to write new characters in. So the local priest, who would have ended up being a serial killer if we'd carried on. And the daughter got a boyfriend who was a bit older than she was, who ended up being like he was a hippie in a sense. The drugs came back in. I was trying to fit different things in different holes. To me, it just wasn't quite working the way it had done, which in the end is the reason why I decided the end to just to bring it to a close. And the last episode was like 8 minutes long. It was just the husband and the 3 children just playing Cards Against Humanity.
Amazing.
It just felt like the best way to finish it, really.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, speaking of finishing, we
are sadly reaching the end.
We are reaching the end. I know, there's so much else to talk about.
It's been honestly brilliant to have your insights on everything though, Steve. And as someone who, as we've had actually with everybody on so far, everyone creates their own work, they produce it, they write it, they're polymath.
Do you have anything that that you have coming up that you'd like to shout about, or anything that you'd recommend people seeing or doing?
Well, because we lived in Salford until last year, and now we live in Chorley, so we're slightly outside of Manchester. So I've heard so much about the Angry Brigade. I'm going to have to go and see.
Every episode has been like, absolutely, everyone needs to go and see it. I've still not gone and seen it. So
I saw a good review about Boys, which is on the King's Arms.
Yes, we're going to shower. I can't wait to go and see that. Yeah, excited.
Yeah, but other than that, I mean, I'm hopefully going to be in a play in the GM Fringe, but it's not been fully cast. It's not been announced, so we can't talk about it.
You've got a lot of secret projects.
Yeah, I've got a lot of secret projects coming up. But the guy approached me because somebody I don't know, and I can't remember ever meeting him, recommended me. So he must have seen me in something.
Wonderful.
And decided that I fit this character.
Great.
Who's not a nice man. But yeah, that's great. And
this is how it all happens, though, isn't it? You know, like you're in this network of people, you're doing stuff, and then you just end up you're being seen for something else, and you meet someone, and then the rest is history. It's great.
The rest is history. Yeah, that's another podcast.
It is actually correct, and the rest is politics.
That's
as well,
right,
and the rest is something else. But do you have a way that people can follow you, like on social media, like you have a handle on Instagram or anything like that?
Oh my word! Yeah, I am at Connolly Actor. So that's CONNOLLY Actor. It's the Irish way of saying it. At Your Age and Lost in Salford.
We'll drop the links.
Yeah, at Lost in Salford. An idea that my wife and I are having is actually a podcast. Nothing to do with acting, but it's based in the Fantasy Premier League. So it's football. So again, that's going to be an improvised thing. But she's going to write the improvisation, and I'm going to do it. So, but that's going to be this coming autumn.
Yeah, that sounds really unique, though. That sounds like there's not something like that out there.
Well, there's so many fantasy football podcasts. We're getting off theatre now. There are so many fantasy football podcasts about how to win it. Mm-hmm. We're going to tell you how not to.
Okay.
Well, it's been absolutely brilliant, Steve. Thank you so much
for
coming on.
Thank you for having me.
And you said, you'd be on here and it wouldn't be anything like you're great. Honestly, everyone who's come on, it's been so interesting to hear like your experiences, all the people that you've worked with, everything that you've done and put into these projects. And we're absolutely delighted to have you on.
Oh, absolutely.
So thank you so much.
Delighted to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, we so appreciate you coming along. And thank you everyone so much for listening to the Manchester Independent Theatre Podcast, or MITPod. And as you may know by now, if you want to get in touch with us for anything, if you have any questions to ask, any kind of observations, if you want a job, if you want to give someone a job, email mitpoddy@gmail.com. Yeah, Steve's saying give him a job. mitpoddy@gmail.com, or follow us on Instagram @MIT_pod, and we'll do our best to respond to anything you say. But for now, thank you so much, Steve, for coming on. It's been wonderful.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you for listening, everyone.
Bye. Bye.